My name is Geneva Washington, and I'm 68 years old. Last Tuesday evening, while looking for our tax documents in my husband's home office, I discovered a bank statement for an account I'd never seen before. The account had a balance of $4.7 million. I stood there in Raymond's office, holding the paper with shaking hands, staring at numbers that made no sense. $4,700,000 in an account at a bank I'd never heard of, with only Raymond's name on it. We'd been married for 47 years. We'd raised 3 children together. We'd supposedly shared everything: our home, our lives, our finances. But my husband had secretly hidden nearly $5 million from me for years. "Geneva, what are you doing in my office?" Raymond's voice came from the doorway. I turned to face my husband of 47 years, holding up the bank statement. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Raymond, what is this account?" Raymond's face went pale. For a long moment, he said nothing, just stared at the paper in my hand. Then he stepped into the office and closed the door behind him. "Geneva, I can explain," he started. $4,700,000, I interrupted, my voice growing stronger with anger. "You have an account with almost $5 million that I knew nothing about. Where did this money come from? How long have you been hiding it?" "It's complicated," Raymond said, holding up his hands in a calming gesture that only made me angrier. "Uncomplicate it," I demanded. "Right now. Explain to me how my husband of 47 years has millions of dollars I never knew existed." But before Raymond could answer, our daughter Estelle knocked on the office door and opened it. "Mom, Dad, everything okay?" Estelle asked, sensing the tension. I heard raised voices. I looked at the bank statement in my hand, then at Raymond's guilty face, then at Estelle standing in the doorway. And I realized that this secret account was about to reveal things that would destroy the life I thought I'd been living for nearly 5 decades. But to understand how I ended up standing in my husband's office, discovering millions of hidden dollars, I need to take you back to the beginning. I met Raymond Washington in 1978 when I was 21 and he was 23. We were both working at the same manufacturing company. I was a secretary. He was an entry-level accountant. Raymond was smart, ambitious, and charming. He talked about his plans for the future, moving up in the company, eventually starting his own business, building a comfortable life. "I'm not going to be an accountant forever," Raymond told me on our 3rd date. "I'm going to own my own accounting firm someday, be my own boss, make real money." "That sounds wonderful," I said, impressed by his ambition. We married 2 years later in 1980. I was 23, Raymond was 25. We were young and in love and full of dreams about our future together. "We're going to build something together," Raymond promised at our wedding reception. "You and me, Geneva, partners in everything." Partners, that word meant something to me. I believed we'd face life together, share everything, make decisions as a team. For the first few years, we struggled financially like most young couples. Raymond worked long hours at the manufacturing company while studying for his CPA certification. I worked as a secretary and later as an administrative assistant at various companies. Money was tight. We lived in a small apartment, drove old cars, saved carefully, but we were happy. We were building our life together. In 1990, when Raymond was 33, he finally achieved his dream. He opened his own accounting firm, Washington and Associates. "This is it, Geneva," Raymond said excitedly when he signed the lease for his first office. "This is the beginning of everything I've been working toward." "I'm so proud of you," I said, hugging him. "We're finally doing it." But Raymond surprised me with his next statement. "Geneva, I think it's best if you stay out of the business side of things. Accounting is complicated, and I don't want to burden you with the details. You focus on raising our kids, managing the household. I'll handle the business and finances." I was a little hurt. "Raymond, I want to be involved. We're partners, remember." "We are partners," Raymond assured me. "But partners have different roles. My role is making money and managing finances. Your role is taking care of our family. Trust me, Geneva, this is what's best. I didn't push back. It was 1990, and that kind of division was still common. The husband handled the money, the wife handled the home. I trusted Raymond. I believed he had our best interests at heart. So I became a stay-at-home mother to our 3 children. Estelle, born 1985, Curtis, born 1988, and Porter, born 1991. I managed the household, raised the kids, and trusted Raymond to handle all our finances. Raymond's accounting firm grew steadily over the years. He worked long hours, brought home a good income, and we gradually moved up to a nicer house, better cars, and comfortable middle-class life. How's the business doing? I'd ask periodically. Good, Raymond would say. Growing steadily. Don't worry about it, Geneva. I've got everything under control. And I trusted him. For decades, I trusted him completely. Throughout our marriage, Raymond maintained complete control over our finances. He handled all business accounts for his accounting firm, our joint checking account, our joint savings account, investment accounts, retirement accounts, tax filings, bill payments. I had access to our joint checking account for household expenses, but Raymond deposited money into it monthly and expected me to manage household costs within that budget. Here's this month's household money, Raymond would say, transferring $4,000 into our joint checking. That should cover groceries, gas, kids' expenses, utilities. Let me know if you need more. I had a debit card for the joint checking account. I could see the balance online. But I never looked at any other accounts because Raymond said they were business accounts or investment accounts that I didn't need to worry about. The less you have to think about finances, the better, Raymond would say. You have enough to handle with the kids and the house. Let me handle the money stress. It seemed reasonable at the time. Raymond was an accountant, a financial professional. Of course he should manage our money. That was his expertise. I never suspected he might be hiding anything from me. 10 years ago, when I was 58 and Raymond was 60, we started talking about retirement. Raymond, we should start planning for when you retire, I said. We're both getting older. We need to know what our financial situation will be. Don't worry about it, Raymond said dismissively. I've been planning for our retirement for decades. We'll be comfortable. But I'd like to see the actual numbers, I pressed. How much do we have saved? What will our retirement income be? Geneva, I handle the finances, Raymond said with a touch of irritation. That's been our arrangement for 40 years. Why are you questioning it now? I'm not questioning it, I said. I just want to understand our situation. Our situation is fine, Raymond said firmly. We have retirement savings, we have Social Security, we'll have my pension from the accounting firm. We'll be comfortable. That's all you need to know. I felt dismissed and frustrated, but I didn't push harder. Decades of letting Raymond control the finances made it difficult to suddenly demand full disclosure. 5 years ago, Raymond retired from his accounting firm at age 65. He'd sold the firm to his junior partners for what he said was a modest amount. How much did you sell it for? I asked. Enough, Raymond said vaguely. I structured the sale as payments over time rather than a lump sum for tax reasons. Don't worry, Geneva, we're set. But what does set mean specifically? I asked. What's our retirement income? What are our savings? We have about $400,000 in retirement accounts, Raymond said. Plus Social Security and the income from the firm's sale. We're fine. 400,000 sounded good. Not wealthy, but comfortable for retirement. I was satisfied with that answer. Raymond and I settled into retirement life. We traveled occasionally, modest trips, nothing extravagant. We spent time with our kids and grandchildren. We lived comfortably in our nice but not luxurious home. Money never seemed tight, but we also never seemed wealthy. Raymond maintained his careful management of our finances, depositing our monthly income into our joint checking account. This month we have $6,000 to spend, Raymond would announce. Between Social Security, my pension, and the firm's sale payments, that's our budget. $6,000 per month seemed reasonable. We lived within that budget comfortably. I had no idea Raymond was hiding millions of dollars. Last Tuesday, 1 week ago, everything changed. Our accountant, not Raymond anymore, but a professional we'd hired to do our taxes since Raymond retired, called asking for some documents. "Mrs. Washington, I need copies of your 1099 forms for last year," the accountant said. "Mr. Washington said you might have them filed away." "I'll look for them," I said. "Raymond usually keeps tax documents in his home office." Raymond was out running errands. I went into his office to search for the documents. Raymond's office was his private space. I rarely went in there. Even after 47 years of marriage, Raymond liked having his own space for business matters, even though he was retired. I started looking through the file cabinets for tax documents. The cabinets were organized with labeled folders: 2024 taxes, 2023 taxes, retirement accounts, insurance, medical. Then I noticed a folder labeled simply CM in the back of the bottom drawer, filed behind everything else. Curious, I pulled it out and opened it. Inside were bank statements from something called Cayman Mercantile Bank. The statements were addressed to Raymond Washington at a P.O. box I didn't recognize. I looked at the most recent statement. The date was from 3 months ago, January 2025. Account balance: $4,721,338.42. I stared at the number, certain I was misreading it. $4,721,338. My hands started shaking. I flipped through the other statements in the folder. They went back years: 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021. The balance varied slightly over time but was always in the millions. In 2021, the balance was $4.1 million. In 2022, it was $4.3 million. In 2023, it was $4.5 million. In 2024, it was $4.6 million. In 2025, it was $4.7 million. Raymond had maintained an account with over $4 million for at least the past 4 years, probably longer, but these were the only statements in the folder. And I'd known nothing about it. "Geneva, what are you doing in my office?" I spun around to find Raymond standing in the office doorway, having returned from his errands earlier than expected. "What is this?" I asked, holding up the bank statement with a shaking hand. "Raymond, what is this account?" Raymond's face went completely pale. His eyes locked onto the bank statement in my hand, and I saw something I'd never seen in 47 years of marriage: genuine fear. "Geneva, I can explain," he started. $4,700,000, I interrupted, my voice rising. "You have an account with almost $5 million that I knew nothing about. Where did this money come from? How long have you been hiding it?" "It's complicated," Raymond said, stepping into the office and closing the door behind him. "Then uncomplicate it," I demanded. "Right now, explain to me how my husband of 47 years has millions of dollars hidden from me." "The money is from my accounting firm," Raymond began carefully. "When I sold the business 5 years ago, I told you I got a modest amount. That wasn't entirely accurate." "How much did you actually get?" I asked, my heart pounding. "The firm sold for $6 million, Raymond admitted. $6 million, not the modest amount he'd claimed. $6 million. "You lied to me," I said, shocked. "You told me you got enough to be comfortable. You said we had $400,000 in retirement savings, but you actually had $6 million. "I didn't lie exactly," Raymond said defensively. "We do have the $400,000 in our joint retirement accounts. The $6 million from the firm sale, I kept that separate." "Why?" I demanded. "Why would you hide millions of dollars from your wife?" "Because I wanted to protect it," Raymond said. "Geneva, do you know what happens in divorces? The wife takes half of everything. I worked my entire life building that business. I earned that money. I wanted to make sure it stayed mine. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. You hid money because you thought I might divorce you after 47 years. Not just divorce, Raymond said. I wanted to make sure the money was protected, from lawsuits, from creditors, from anyone who might try to take it. So I put it in an offshore account in my name only. When, I asked, when did you open this account? 20 years ago, Raymond admitted. 20 years. For 2 decades, nearly half our marriage, Raymond had been hiding money from me. So all this time, I said slowly, trying to process, when we were living modestly, when we were being careful with money, when you were depositing our monthly income into our checking account, you had millions of dollars hidden away. We lived comfortably, Raymond defended. You never lacked for anything. That's not the point, I shouted. The point is you lied to me for 20 years. You hid millions of dollars. You made financial decisions that affected both of us without including me. I made decisions to protect our assets, Raymond insisted. Our assets, I repeated incredulously. You mean your assets? You just said you wanted to make sure the money stayed yours, not ours, yours. Before Raymond could respond, there was a knock at the office door. Mom, Dad, everything okay? Our daughter Estelle's voice came through the door. I heard shouting. I realized Estelle must have arrived while Raymond and I were arguing. She had a key to the house and visited regularly. Everything's fine, honey, Raymond called out, his voice suddenly calm. Your mother and I are just having a discussion. But I opened the office door, and Estelle stood there looking concerned. Behind her, I could see our son Curtis and our youngest son Porter had also arrived. Apparently, we'd planned a family dinner that I'd completely forgotten about in the chaos of discovering Raymond's secret. Is everything okay? Estelle asked again, looking between us with worry. I looked at my 3 children, all adults now, with families of their own. Then I looked at Raymond, who was silently pleading with me not to say anything. And I realized I had a choice to make. Keep Raymond's secret and deal with this privately, or tell our children the truth about what I just discovered. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now. Hit that like button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Should Geneva tell the children? Is Raymond guilty of financial abuse? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, Australia? Let me know. I stood in the doorway of Raymond's office, holding the bank statement showing $4.7 million, facing our 3 adult children who just arrived for a family dinner I'd completely forgotten about. Estelle, Curtis, and Porter all stood in the hallway looking concerned. Raymond stood behind me, silently begging me with his eyes not to reveal what I'd just discovered. But after 47 years of letting Raymond control our finances, after discovering he'd hidden millions of dollars from me for 20 years, after learning he'd lied about the sale of his business, I was done keeping his secrets. No, everything is not okay, I said, looking at Estelle. Your father has been hiding millions of dollars from me for years, and I just found out. Geneva, Raymond started to protest. Mom, what are you talking about? Curtis asked, confused. I held up the bank statement. Your father has an offshore account with almost $5 million that I knew nothing about. Money he's been hiding for at least 20 years. $4.7 million, I said, my voice shaking. While we've been living on what he said was our retirement income of $6,000 per month, he's had millions hidden away. All 3 of our children stared at Raymond in shock. Dad, is this true? Porter asked. Raymond's face was bright red with anger and embarrassment. This is a private matter between your mother and me. We don't need to involve you children. We're not children, Dad, Estelle said sharply. We're adults. And if Mom says you've been hiding money from her for 20 years, I think we deserve an explanation. Fine, Raymond said, his jaw tight. Yes, I have an offshore account. Yes, it has money from the sale of my accounting firm 5 years ago. And yes, I chose not to tell your mother about it because I wanted to protect those assets. Protect them from what? Curtis asked. From Mom. From anyone who might try to take them, Raymond said. Lawsuits, creditors, divorce settlements. I worked my entire life building that business. I had the right to protect what I earned. But Dad, you've been married to Mom for 47 years, Porter said. How is hiding money from her protecting anything? That's just lying. I didn't lie, Raymond insisted. I just didn't share every detail of our finances. A $4 million detail, Estelle said incredulously. We moved from the office hallway to the living room, where the conversation continued and escalated. Dad, help me understand this, Curtis said, sitting forward in his chair. You told Mom you sold your firm for a modest amount, but you actually sold it for $6 million. That's not a modest amount. That's life-changing money. I structured the sale carefully for tax purposes, Raymond explained. I told your mother we'd be comfortable in retirement. We are comfortable. She's never lacked for anything. That's not the point, I said, finding my voice. The point is you made a major financial decision, how to handle $6 million without including me. You decided alone to hide the money in an offshore account. You decided alone how much money I could access. You controlled everything while pretending we were partners. We are partners, Raymond protested. Partners share information, I said, my voice rising. Partners make decisions together. For 20 years, you've been hiding money and making unilateral decisions about our finances. Because I'm the financial expert, Raymond said. Geneva, you don't understand complex financial management. You never have. I made decisions that protected our family's wealth. Our family's wealth, Estelle interrupted. Dad, you just said you wanted to protect the money from divorce settlements. That means you weren't thinking about it as family wealth. You were thinking about it as your personal wealth that you wanted to keep away from Mom. Raymond went silent, realizing his daughter had caught him in his own words. Dad, when did you open this offshore account? Porter asked. Mom said 20 years ago. That would be 2005. What was happening in 2005 that made you decide to hide money? Raymond didn't answer, but I suddenly remembered what had happened in 2005. That was the year we almost got divorced, I said quietly. Our children knew about the difficult period in 2005, but they didn't know how close Raymond and I had actually come to divorcing. I'd forgotten about that, Curtis said. You and Dad were having problems that year. We were having serious problems, I confirmed. I discovered Raymond had been having an affair with a woman from his accounting firm. We went to marriage counseling. I almost filed for divorce. But you worked it out, Estelle said. You stayed together. I stayed, I said, looking at Raymond. I chose to forgive him and try to rebuild our marriage. But apparently, Raymond responded by hiding money so that if we ever did divorce, I wouldn't get half of what he'd earned. That's not why I opened the offshore account, Raymond protested weakly. Then why? I demanded. Why did you open a secret account right after I discovered your affair and threatened divorce? It's pretty obvious, Raymond. You were protecting your assets in case I left you. Raymond couldn't meet my eyes. His silence confirmed everything. Dad, that's really messed up, Porter said bluntly. Mom forgave you for cheating on her, and your response was to hide money from her. It wasn't like that, Raymond insisted. I was thinking about the future, about protecting what I'd built. It wasn't personal against your mother. How is hiding money from your wife of 47 years not personal? Estelle asked. As the conversation continued, more revelations emerged. Dad, can I ask something? Curtis said. If you've had $4 or $5 million for years, why have you been living like you're on a fixed retirement income? Why not enjoy the money? Because I was saving it, Raymond said, building wealth for the future. The future, I repeated. Raymond, you're 70, I'm 68. What future are you saving for? For our children, Raymond said. For our grandchildren. I wanted to leave them a substantial inheritance. Did you plan to leave it to all of us? Porter asked pointedly. Or just to whoever you felt like leaving it to? Raymond didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. Oh my God, Estelle said. Dad, is the offshore account set up so that Mom wouldn't inherit it if you died first? The account is structured to pass to beneficiaries I've designated, Raymond admitted. Who are the beneficiaries? I asked, dreading the answer. Our 3 children, Raymond said. If I die, the account goes directly to Estelle, Curtis, and Porter, split equally among them. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. You were planning to leave me with just our joint retirement accounts, while our children got millions. You'd have the house and your Social Security, Raymond said defensively. You'd be fine. That's not the point, I shouted. We built that wealth together over 47 years of marriage. You didn't have the right to decide alone that you'd leave millions to our children while cutting me out. I wasn't cutting you out, Raymond protested. I was providing for everyone. By controlling everything from beyond the grave, Curtis said. Dad, I don't even know what to say. As the evening progressed, I watched our 3 children process what they were learning about their father. Estelle, our oldest at 39, was furious with Raymond. Dad, I can't believe you did this to Mom, Estelle said. She spent 47 years married to you, raised us while you built your business, supported your career, forgave you when you cheated, and your response was to hide millions and plan to cut her out of the inheritance. I wasn't cutting her out, Raymond repeated tiredly. Then what would you call it? Estelle demanded. If you died and Mom discovered she inherited only the house and retirement accounts while we got millions, how do you think she'd feel? Curtis, 36, was more measured but clearly disturbed. Dad, I'm trying to understand your thinking here, Curtis said. But I can't. This feels like you don't trust Mom, like you never trusted her, even after 47 years of marriage. It's not about trust, Raymond said. It's about financial planning. No, Dad, Curtis said firmly. It's about control. You wanted to control all the money, make all the decisions, and ensure that even after you died, you'd still be controlling who got what. That's not financial planning. That's manipulation. Porter, our youngest at 33, was the most conflicted. I don't know what to think, Porter admitted. Dad, I understand wanting to protect assets, but Mom's right, you were married for 47 years. This money was earned during your marriage. It should have been shared, not hidden. I was protecting our family, Raymond insisted. You were protecting yourself, Porter corrected. There's a difference. After 2 hours of intense conversation, our children left, promising to talk to me later. Raymond and I were alone again in our living room. Geneva, I need you to understand, Raymond started. No, I interrupted. You need to understand something, Raymond. What you did, hiding millions of dollars, lying about the business sale, planning to leave me with minimal inheritance, controlling all our finances for decades. That's financial abuse. Don't be dramatic, Raymond said dismissively. I provided for you, you had everything you needed. What I needed was a partner, I said. What I needed was honesty. What I needed was to be included in major financial decisions about money we earned together. You gave me none of those things. So what do you want? Raymond asked, his voice hard. You want me to give you the money, put it in a joint account. What would make you happy? I want a divorce, I heard myself say. The words surprised me as much as they surprised Raymond. But once I said them, I knew they were true. You want a divorce, Raymond repeated, shocked. After 47 years. After 47 years of you controlling me, lying to me, and treating me like a dependent rather than a partner, I confirmed. Yes, Raymond, I want a divorce. Geneva, you're overreacting, Raymond said. This is about money. We can work this out. We'll restructure the accounts. I'll add your name, whatever you want. It's not about the money, I said, though it partly was. It's about respect, trust, partnership, things you've never given me. I've given you 47 years of my life, Raymond said angrily. And I've given you 47 years of mine, I replied. The difference is, I gave them honestly. You gave them while hiding millions of dollars and planning to cut me out of the inheritance. I'm not putting you through a divorce at our age, Raymond said firmly. We're going to work this out. You don't get to decide that unilaterally, I said. Not anymore. I'm hearing a lawyer. If you want to save this marriage, you're going to have to prove to me that you're capable of being the partner you promised to be 47 years ago. I spent that night in our guest bedroom, unable to sleep. My mind raced with everything I'd learned. $4.7 million hidden, 20 years of lies, a business sold for $6 million that I was told was a modest amount, an inheritance plan that left me with minimal assets while our children got millions, 47 years of financial control masquerading as partnership. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with text messages from our children. Estelle, Mom, I'm so sorry about what Dad did. I had no idea. Whatever you decide to do, I support you 100%. Curtis, Mom, I've been thinking about everything we learned tonight. Dad was wrong. The money was earned during your marriage. You deserve half, at minimum. If you need help with legal fees for a divorce lawyer, let me know. Porter, Mom, this is a lot to process. I love both you and Dad, but what he did wasn't right. You deserve better. Call me if you need to talk. I started crying reading my children's messages. At least they understood. At least they saw what Raymond had done was wrong. But then another text came through. This one from Raymond, who was apparently awake in our bedroom down the hall. Raymond, Geneva, please reconsider. We can fix this. Don't throw away 47 years over money. I typed back. It's not about the money. It's about 47 years of lies. I didn't hear back from him. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. The attorney's name was Minnie Foster, and she specialized in high-asset divorces. Mrs. Washington, tell me what's happening, Attorney Foster said when I arrived at her office that afternoon. I explained everything. The hidden offshore account, the $4.7 million, the 20 years of lies, the business sale Raymond had misrepresented, the inheritance plan that cut me out. Attorney Foster took detailed notes, her expression growing more serious as I spoke. Mrs. Washington, what your husband did, hiding marital assets in an offshore account, is illegal in most jurisdictions, Attorney Foster said. Assets acquired during a marriage are typically considered marital property that must be disclosed and divided equitably in a divorce. So I have a right to half of that money, I asked. You likely have a right to significantly more than half, Attorney Foster said. When one spouse hides assets, courts often punish that behavior by awarding the innocent spouse a larger share of the marital estate. Plus, your husband's testimony that he hid the money specifically to prevent you from accessing it in a divorce shows fraudulent intent. What does that mean? I asked. It means we have a very strong case, Attorney Foster said. But first, we need to gather evidence. I'm going to need copies of those bank statements, documentation about the business sale, records of all your joint accounts, tax returns for the past 10 years, everything we can get. I can get the bank statements, I said. They're still in Raymond's office, but I don't know what other evidence exists or where to find it. That's why we're going to file for discovery, Attorney Foster explained. Once we file for divorce, we can subpoena records from banks, the IRS, Raymond's former business partners, anyone who might have information about hidden assets. Do you think there might be more money hidden beyond the $4.7 million? I asked, surprised. Mrs. Washington, in my experience, when someone hides one offshore account, there are often others, Attorney Foster said. We need to investigate thoroughly. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Should Geneva get more than half the money? Are there more hidden accounts? Where are you watching from? 2 days after I consulted with attorney Minnie Foster, I did something I'd never done in 47 years of marriage. I went back into Raymond's office when he was out and systematically searched for evidence. Mrs. Washington, I need you to gather as much documentation as possible before we officially file for divorce, Attorney Foster had instructed. Once Raymond knows we're filing, he might try to hide or destroy evidence. Get copies of everything you can find, bank statements, business documents, tax returns, anything financial. So that Wednesday morning, when Raymond left for his weekly golf game, I returned to his office with my phone to photograph everything I could find. What I discovered was far worse than I'd imagined. I started with the file cabinet where I'd originally found the Cayman Mercantile Bank statements. I photographed every statement in the CM folder, documenting the account history going back to 2005, the year Raymond had opened it after I'd discovered his affair. The earliest statement from June 2005 showed an opening balance of $1.2 million. Over 20 years, through deposits and investment growth, that balance had grown to the current $4.7 million. Then I moved to other folders in the cabinet. Most were mundane: insurance policies, property tax records, utility bills. But in a folder labeled Business Sale 2020, I found documentation about the sale of Raymond's accounting firm. The sale contract confirmed what Raymond had admitted. He'd sold the firm for $6 million, structured as a $3 million down payment and $3 million in installments over 5 years. But what caught my attention was a handwritten note clipped to the contract in Raymond's writing. Deposit structure: $3 M to CM account, offshore, $300 K to joint savings. Tell G this is total sale amount, $2.07 M installments to CM over 5 years. Raymond had planned from the beginning to hide most of the sale proceeds from me. He deposited $3 million into the offshore account immediately, then told me the entire sale was only $300,000. I photographed the contract in Raymond's note, my hands shaking with anger. As I continued searching, I found another folder labeled Swiss Alliance Private Banking, hidden behind tax records. Inside were statements for a second offshore account, this one at a Swiss bank. Current balance: $1.8 million. I felt sick. There wasn't just one hidden account, there were at least 2. The Swiss account had been opened in 2010, 5 years after the Cayman account. Statements showed regular deposits over the years, smaller amounts than the Cayman account, but still substantial. I photographed all the Swiss bank statements, documenting nearly $2 million more in hidden assets. Then I kept searching. In the back of the bottom drawer of Raymond's desk, not the file cabinet, but the actual desk, I found a locked metal box. I'd never noticed it before because it was hidden under old manuals and papers. But now, determined to find all of Raymond's secrets, I pulled it out. The box was locked. I searched Raymond's desk for a key, finally finding one taped to the underside of a drawer. Inside the locked box was documentation for a third offshore account, this one in Belize at something called Caribbean Asset Trust. Current balance: $2.3 million. I stopped breathing for a moment. 3 offshore accounts, nearly $9 million total hidden from me. $4.7 million in the Cayman account, $1.8 million in the Swiss account, $2.3 million in the Belize account. Raymond hadn't hidden just the money from his business sale. He'd been systematically hiding money for 20 years, money that should have been shared marital assets. I photographed everything in the locked box, then carefully put it back exactly as I'd found it. Raymond couldn't know I'd discovered all 3 accounts yet. The last crucial documents I found were Raymond's tax returns from the past 10 years, returns he'd always prepared himself and never shown me in detail. "Just sign here," Raymond would say every April, pointing to the signature line. "I've already completed everything. We're getting a small refund." I'd always signed without reading them thoroughly, trusting Raymond as our family's financial expert. Now I photographed every page of the past 10 years of returns. I didn't understand all the complex financial details, but I knew attorney Foster would. By the time Raymond returned from golf 3 hours later, I'd photographed hundreds of pages of evidence and uploaded them all to a secure cloud storage account attorney Foster had set up for me. "Geneva, I'm home," Raymond called out when he entered the house. I was in the kitchen, calmly preparing lunch, with no sign of what I'd just spent the morning doing. "How was golf?" I asked, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Good," Raymond said, studying my face. Are you feeling better today about our discussion the other night? I'm feeling clear-headed, I said honestly. For the first time in a long time, I'm seeing things clearly. Raymond looked relieved, misinterpreting my words. Good, that's good. I think once you've had time to process everything, you'll realize we can work this out. I said nothing, just smiled tightly and returned to making sandwiches. Raymond had no idea I'd just discovered $9 million in hidden assets and documented everything for my divorce attorney. That afternoon, I met with Attorney Foster and shared all the evidence I'd gathered. Foster's eyes widened as I showed her the photographs of all 3 offshore accounts. Mrs. Washington, this is incredible evidence, Foster said, scrolling through the images on her tablet. 3 separate offshore accounts totaling nearly $9 million, all opened during your marriage, all hidden from you. And this note about the business sale, this shows premeditation. He planned to hide the money before the sale even closed. What does this mean for my case? I asked. It means you have one of the strongest divorce cases I've ever seen, Foster said. Your husband systematically hid marital assets in offshore accounts for 20 years. He lied about the value of his business sale. He planned to cut you out of the inheritance. This is textbook financial fraud in marriage. How much of the money am I entitled to? I asked. In a normal divorce, marital assets are typically split 50-50, Foster explained. But when one spouse has committed fraud by hiding assets, courts often award the innocent spouse significantly more, sometimes 60 or 70% of the marital estate. Plus, we'll seek sanctions and attorney fees to be paid by your husband as punishment for his fraudulent conduct. So I could get more than half? I asked, surprised. You could get substantially more than half, Foster confirmed. And Mrs. Washington, there's something else. These tax returns you photographed, I'm going to need to have a forensic accountant review them, but at first glance, I see some concerning things. Like what? I asked. Like income reported to the IRS that doesn't match the deposits into your joint accounts, Foster said carefully. If your husband was reporting $200,000 per year in income, but only giving you access to $72,000 per year for household expenses, where was the other $128,000 going? Into the offshore accounts, I guessed. Probably, Foster said. But here's the problem. If your husband was moving money into offshore accounts without reporting it properly to the IRS, that could be tax evasion, which is a federal crime. I felt cold. Are you saying Raymond committed crimes? I'm saying we need a forensic accountant to review everything thoroughly, Foster said. But Mrs. Washington, hiding money in offshore accounts and not reporting foreign financial assets to the IRS is very serious. Your husband could face criminal charges. 3 days later, I met with the forensic accountant attorney Foster had hired, a woman named Opal Green who specialized in uncovering hidden assets in divorce cases. Mrs. Washington, I've reviewed all the documents you provided, Opal said, spreading papers across the conference table. Your husband has been running what amounts to a parallel financial life for 20 years. What does that mean? I asked. It means he had 2 separate financial systems, Opal explained. The official system you had access to, joint checking account, joint retirement accounts, the house, and a hidden system of offshore accounts you weren't supposed to know about. Money flowed into both systems from his accounting business, Opal continued. But the vast majority went into the hidden system. Based on tax returns and bank deposits, I estimate your husband earned approximately $4.2 million between 2005 and 2020. Of that, you saw maybe $800,000 through household deposits. The rest, $4 million, went into offshore accounts. Then, when he sold the business in 2020 for $6 million, he deposited $3 million directly into offshore accounts and told you the sale was only $300,000, Opal said. So in total, over 20 years, your husband diverted approximately $9.4 million into hidden accounts. The number was staggering, nearly $10 million. But there's more, Opal said, her expression serious. Your husband failed to report these foreign accounts to the IRS as required by law. U.S. citizens with foreign financial accounts exceeding $10,000 must file an FBAR, foreign bank account report, annually. Your husband never filed these reports. What happens when someone doesn't file those reports? I asked nervously. The penalties are severe, Opal said. Civil penalties can be $10,000 per account per year for non-willful violations, or 50% of the account balance per year for willful violations. Criminal penalties can include up to 5 years in prison. Raymond could go to prison, I asked, shocked. If the IRS pursues criminal charges, yes, Opal confirmed. But Mrs. Washington, I need to make something clear. You might also be liable for some of these tax issues. My stomach dropped. What, how? I didn't know about the accounts. You signed joint tax returns, Opal said gently. When you sign a joint return, you're certifying that all information is accurate. If the IRS determines your husband underreported income or failed to disclose foreign accounts, they could hold both of you liable. But I didn't know, I protested. That's a defense called innocent spouse relief, Opal said. We can argue you had no knowledge of your husband's hidden accounts and therefore shouldn't be held responsible, but we'll need to file for that relief formally with the IRS. I felt overwhelmed. Not only was my marriage falling apart, but I might face legal consequences for Raymond's financial crimes that I'd known nothing about. That evening, I confronted Raymond with what I'd discovered. Raymond, we need to talk, I said when he came home from running errands. About what? Raymond asked warily. About the other offshore accounts, I said, watching his face carefully. Raymond's expression froze. What other accounts? The Swiss account with $1.8 million, I said, and the Belize account with $2.3 million. Did you think I wouldn't find them? Raymond's face went white. How did you went through my office. You searched my private files. Your private files? I repeated incredulously. Raymond, we're married. Financial documents about money earned during our marriage aren't your private files. They're marital assets I have a right to know about. You had no right to go through my desk, Raymond said, his voice rising. And you had no right to hide $9 million from me for 20 years, I shouted back. 3 offshore accounts, Raymond. 3, how could you? I was protecting our assets, Raymond said, but his defense sounded weak even to him. You were committing financial fraud, I corrected, and apparently tax evasion too. Did you know you're supposed to report foreign accounts to the IRS? Did you know failing to do so is a federal crime? Raymond's face somehow went even paler. What are you talking about? FBAR reports, I said. Foreign bank account reports. You're required to file them annually for any foreign accounts over $10,000. You never filed them, did you? That's not relevant, Raymond stammered. It's very relevant, I said, because when we get divorced and all these hidden accounts come to light, the IRS is going to find out, and you could face criminal charges. Raymond repeated, seizing on that word. Geneva, if you expose these accounts in a divorce, you could be implicated too. You signed our tax returns. The IRS could come after both of us. Nice try, I said, but my attorney already told me about innocent spouse relief. I can prove I had no knowledge of your hidden accounts. You'll face the consequences alone. You've hired an attorney, Raymond asked, looking betrayed. Yes, I confirmed, and we're filing for divorce. Not just because you hid $9 million, but because in 47 years of marriage, you never once treated me as an equal partner. You controlled every financial decision, hid assets, lied about income, and planned to cut me out of the inheritance. This marriage is over, Raymond. Geneva, please, Raymond said, and for the first time I saw genuine fear in his eyes. If we get divorced and this all becomes public, I could lose everything. Prison, my reputation, everything. You should have thought about that before you committed fraud, I said coldly. I'll give you half the money, Raymond said desperately. Right now, I'll transfer $4.5 million into a joint account. We can stay married. I'll add your name to everything. Just please don't file for divorce." "It's too late for that," I said. "You had 20 years to be honest with me. You had 47 years to treat me as an equal partner. You chose not to. Now you'll face the consequences." The next day, Attorney Foster officially filed divorce papers. The filing included petition for dissolution of marriage, request for equitable distribution of all marital assets, including 3 identified offshore accounts, request for forensic accounting of all income earned during the marriage, request for sanctions against Raymond for fraudulent concealment of assets, request for temporary restraining order preventing Raymond from accessing or moving funds from any account. The filing was served on Raymond at our house by a process server. When he received the papers, Raymond called me immediately. I'd moved into a hotel temporarily to avoid living with him during the divorce. "Geneva, this filing, you listed all 3 offshore accounts. You included my tax returns. This is going to become public record. Everyone will know." "Good," I said. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you hid $9 million from me." "You're going to destroy me," Raymond said, his voice breaking. "No, Raymond," I corrected. "You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure I get what I'm entitled to after 47 years of marriage." "What about our children?" Raymond asked. "What will they think when all of this becomes public?" "They already know," I said. "I told them everything, and they support me." That was true. Estelle, Curtis, and Porter had all reached out after I'd filed for divorce, offering emotional and even financial support. "Mom, do what you need to do," Estelle had said. "Dad made his choices. Now he has to face the consequences." 1 week after I filed for divorce, Raymond received a letter from the IRS. Someone, probably Attorney Foster or the forensic accountant, had reported Raymond's unreported foreign accounts to the IRS. Now the agency was opening an investigation. "Geneva, the IRS is investigating me," Raymond called to tell me, panic clear in his voice. "For the offshore accounts. This could ruin me. I could go to prison." "That's not my problem anymore," I said, though I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy, but something. "Please," Raymond begged. "Can you talk to your attorney? Ask her to tell the IRS that you filed for innocent spouse relief. That might help my case if they know you weren't involved." "I'll consider it," I said. "But Raymond, understand something. I'm not going to lie to protect you. If the IRS asks me questions, I'm going to tell them the truth, that I had no knowledge of these accounts, that you hid everything from me, that you controlled all our finances and never included me in decisions." "That will make me look worse," Raymond said. "Then you should have made better choices," I replied and hung up. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now. Smash that like button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Should Raymond go to prison? How much should Geneva get? Where are you watching from? 6 months after I discovered Raymond's hidden offshore accounts and filed for divorce, we were finally approaching the end of this nightmare. Raymond sat across from me in the conference room at Attorney Foster's office, looking like a shell of the man I'd married 47 years ago. He'd aged dramatically in 6 months. His hair had gone completely gray, he'd lost weight, and he had deep circles under his eyes. "Are we ready to finalize the settlement?" Attorney Foster asked, looking between us. Raymond's attorney, Curtis Brooks, an expensive divorce lawyer Raymond had hired with money from his offshore accounts, nodded reluctantly. "My client has agreed to the terms." "Good," Attorney Foster said. "Let's review the final settlement agreement." The divorce settlement. The settlement that Raymond had finally agreed to after months of negotiation was substantial. Financial distribution. 1. Offshore accounts. Of the $8.8 million in the 3 offshore accounts, the balances had decreased slightly due to legal fees and market changes. I would receive 65%, approximately $5.7 million. Raymond would keep 35%, approximately $3.1 million. 2. Joint retirement accounts. The $400,000 in our joint retirement accounts would be split 50-50, $200,000 each. 3. House. Our house, worth $450,000, would be sold. I would receive $300,000 of the proceeds. Raymond would receive $150,000. 4. Sanctions and attorney fees. Raymond would pay $125,000 to cover my attorney fees and as a sanction for fraudulently hiding assets. Total settlement. Geneva receives approximately $6.2 million in cash plus $300,000 from house sale equals $6.5 million total. Raymond keeps approximately $3.3 million in cash plus $150,000 from house sale equals $3.5 million total. I would receive nearly 2/3 of our marital assets, significantly more than the typical 50-50 split, because Raymond had committed fraud by hiding assets for 20 years. Mrs. Washington, are you satisfied with these terms? Attorney Foster asked me. I looked at Raymond, who wouldn't meet my eyes. 6 months ago, he'd controlled all our finances and hidden millions from me. Now he was giving up nearly 2/3 of the wealth we'd accumulated during our marriage. Yes, I said, I'm satisfied. Mr. Washington, Curtis Brooks asked his client. Yes, Raymond said quietly, defeat clear in his voice. I agree to the terms. The IRS investigation. But the divorce settlement wasn't the end of Raymond's troubles. The IRS investigation into his unreported foreign accounts was ongoing. Mr. Washington, what's the status of the IRS investigation? Attorney Foster asked. Has there been any resolution? Raymond's face tightened. I reached a settlement with the IRS last month. What were the terms? Attorney Foster asked. This was important because IRS penalties could affect how much money Raymond actually had to pay me from the settlement. Civil penalties of $780,000, Raymond said. And I had to pay back taxes and interest totaling $920,000. Total cost, $1.7 million. I felt a jolt of shock. Raymond had to pay the IRS $1.7 million for failing to report his foreign accounts properly. So of your $3.5 million share of the marital assets, you'll actually only keep about $1.8 million after paying the IRS, Attorney Foster calculated. Yes, Raymond said bitterly. Did the IRS pursue criminal charges? I asked, curious despite myself. No, Raymond said. They determined the violations were serious but not criminal. If I'd actively tried to evade taxes, moving money to avoid detection, using fake names, deliberately filing false returns, they would have charged me criminally. But since I just failed to report the accounts properly, they settled for civil penalties. He'd gotten lucky. He could have gone to prison. And Mrs. Washington, you filed for innocent spouse relief, Curtis Brooks asked. Yes, Attorney Foster confirmed. The IRS accepted Geneva's innocent spouse claim. She's not liable for any of the penalties or back taxes because she had no knowledge of the offshore accounts and didn't benefit from the unreported income. I felt relieved. At least I wouldn't be dragged down by Raymond's financial crimes. The children's reaction. After we signed the divorce settlement, I met with our 3 children to tell them everything was finalized. Estelle, Curtis, and Porter gathered at Estelle's house, neutral territory since neither Raymond nor I lived in our marital home anymore. It was being prepared for sale. So it's really over, Estelle asked. You and Dad are officially divorced. As soon as the judge signs the final decree, yes, I confirmed. Probably within a week. How are you feeling, Mom? Curtis asked gently. Honestly, relieved, I said. These past 6 months have been exhausting. The investigation, the negotiations, the constant stress. I'm glad it's finally over. What about Dad? Porter asked. How is he handling everything? Not well, I admitted. He's lost most of his wealth to the settlement and IRS penalties. He's lost his reputation. Word has gotten out in the community about the hidden accounts and divorce. He's lost his marriage, and he's facing the reality that he destroyed everything through his own choices. Do you feel bad for him? Estelle asked. I considered the question carefully. I feel sad that things ended this way. 47 years of marriage shouldn't end in betrayal and divorce. But do I regret exposing what Raymond did? No. He lied to me for 20 years. He hid millions of dollars. He planned to cut me out of the inheritance. He deserved consequences. We support you, Mom, Curtis said firmly. What Dad did was wrong. You deserved better. There's something else I need to discuss with you, I said. Your father's will, the one that left the offshore, accounts to you 3 if he died first. That will is now void since we're divorced and the accounts have been divided. But I want you to know, when I die, you'll inherit my share of the marital assets. I'm not cutting you out. Mom, we never expected, Porter started. I know, I interrupted. But I want you to understand. Your father's mistake was hiding money and trying to control everything from beyond the grave. I won't make the same mistake. When the time comes, my assets will be divided equally among you 3. But while I'm alive, I'm going to enjoy the financial security I earned through 47 years of marriage. All 3 of my children nodded, understanding and supportive. Confronting ROMOND one last time. 2 weeks after signing the divorce settlement, the house sale closed. Raymond and I met at the title company to sign the final papers and receive our shares of the proceeds. It was the first time we'd been alone together since the settlement was finalized. Geneva, Raymond said as we waited for the title agent to prepare the paperwork. Can we talk? About what? I asked cautiously. About everything, Raymond said. About what I did, about why I did it, about us. Raymond, we're divorced, I said. There is no us anymore. I know, Raymond said. But after 47 years of marriage, don't I at least deserve a chance to explain? I considered refusing, but curiosity won out. Fine, explain. Raymond took a deep breath. When we married in 1980, I was ambitious. I wanted to build wealth, be successful, provide for our family, and I did that. I built a successful accounting firm. I made good money. I provided a comfortable life. But somewhere along the way, I started thinking about money differently, Raymond continued. Not as something to share, but as something to protect, to control. I watched clients go through divorces where they lost half their wealth. I saw men who'd built businesses have their ex-wives take half the value, and I decided that wouldn't happen to me. So when I had my affair in 2005 and you threatened divorce, I panicked, Raymond admitted. I thought you might actually leave, and I realized if you did, you'd be entitled to half of everything I'd built. That felt unfair to me, like you'd be taking something you hadn't earned. I raised our 3 children, I interrupted angrily. I managed our household for decades. I supported your career. How did I not earn half of the marital assets? You're right, Raymond said. I know that now, but at the time I didn't see it that way. I saw myself as the one who'd built the wealth through my business, and I wanted to protect it, so I opened the offshore account. And once you'd opened one, it was easy to open more, I said. Yes, Raymond admitted. The first account made hiding money seem acceptable, even smart. I told myself I was protecting our family's wealth, being strategic, but really I was just being selfish and controlling. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. The divorce is final. The settlement is signed. It's too late to change anything. Because I want you to understand. It wasn't about not loving you, Raymond said. I did love you. I do love you. I just loved money and control more. And that was my fatal mistake. I looked at the man I'd been married to for 47 years. The man who'd hidden millions from me. The man who'd just lost most of his wealth and his family because of his own choices. Raymond, I appreciate the honesty, I said, but it doesn't change anything. You had 20 years to choose differently. You chose to hide money, lie to me, and plan to cut me out of the inheritance. Now you're facing the consequences. That's not my fault or my responsibility. I know, Raymond said. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry for everything. The title agent called us in before I could respond. 1 year after I discovered Raymond's hidden accounts, and filed for divorce. I'm 69 years old and rebuilding my life. I used part of my divorce settlement to buy a beautiful condominium, smaller than our old house, but modern, comfortable, and entirely mine. No memories of Raymond. No reminders of 47 years of being controlled. I hired a financial advisor, a woman recommended by attorney Foster, to help me manage the $6.5 million I'd received in the settlement. Together, we created an investment strategy that would provide steady income while preserving the principal. Mrs. Washington, with proper management, you'll have approximately $260,000 per year in investment income, my advisor explained. Plus your Social Security. You're very financially secure. Secure. After years of living on the limited, household budget Raymond gave me access to, I was now genuinely wealthy. But more important than the money was the freedom. For the first time in 47 years, I made my own financial decisions. I knew exactly how much money I had. I controlled my own accounts. I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to spend money. I traveled, not the modest trips Raymond and I had taken during retirement, but real travel. I spent a month in Europe. I took a cruise through the Caribbean. I visited our grandchildren in 3 different states. I also became an advocate for financial literacy for women. Ladies, never let someone else control all your finances, I said during a talk at a local women's center. I did that for 47 years, and it allowed my husband to hide $9 million from me. Know where your money is. Know what accounts exist. Review tax returns before you sign them. And if your partner resists sharing financial information with you, that's a major red flag. Several women approached me after the talk to share their own stories of financial control and hidden assets. I realized how common it was, men controlling the family finances while their wives had no idea what was really happening. You're making a difference, Attorney Foster told me when we had lunch one day. Your case was high profile enough that it's changing how people think about financial transparency in marriage. I occasionally heard updates about Raymond through our children. He'd moved into a small apartment after our house sold. With his $3.5 million from the divorce settlement reduced to $1.8 million after IRS penalties, and with legal fees and living expenses, his wealth had shrunk dramatically. Dad seems depressed, Porter told me during one visit. He doesn't go out much, doesn't see friends, he's basically become a recluse. Does he have enough money to live on? I asked, feeling a small twinge of concern despite everything. He's fine financially, Curtis said. He has about $1.8 million invested, which generates around $70,000 per year, plus Social Security. He's not wealthy anymore, but he's comfortable. $70,000 per year. Compared to my $260,000 per year from the settlement, Raymond's financial situation was much more modest. He'd gone from being a multimillionaire controlling $9 million to living on less than $100,000 per year. Has he learned anything from this? Estelle asked. Does he understand what he did wrong? I think he understands, I said. But understanding doesn't undo 20 years of lies and financial abuse. 15 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Raymond at a local restaurant. I was having lunch with my sister. He was dining alone. Our eyes met across the restaurant. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Raymond stood and walked over to my table. Geneva, he said, it's good to see you. Hello, Raymond, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. You look well, Raymond said. Happy. I am happy, I confirmed. For the first time in a long time, I'm genuinely happy. I'm glad, Raymond said, and he seemed to mean it. You deserve to be happy. There was an awkward pause. How are you doing? I asked, more out of politeness than genuine interest. I'm managing, Raymond said. Learning to live with less, learning to live alone, learning to accept the consequences of my choices. That's good, I said. Everyone needs to face consequences eventually. Geneva, I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again, Raymond said. I'm sorry for hiding the money, for lying, for controlling you, for everything. I destroyed our marriage through my own selfishness, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." I looked at this man who'd been my husband for 47 years, the man who'd hidden millions from me, the man who'd finally lost everything because of his own choices. "Raymond, I accept your apology," I said, "but I don't forgive you. Maybe someday I will, but not today." "I understand," Raymond said. "That's more than I deserve." He returned to his table, and I returned to my lunch with my sister. I'm Geneva Washington, 69 years old, and 18 months ago I discovered my husband had hidden $8.8 million in 3 offshore accounts for 20 years. When I found the bank statements in Raymond's office that Tuesday evening, my entire world changed. 47 years of marriage, built on what I thought was partnership, revealed itself to be built on lies and control. Raymond had systematically hidden money, made unilateral financial decisions, planned to cut me out of the inheritance, and committed tax evasion by failing to report foreign accounts. When I confronted him, he tried to justify his actions as protecting assets, but the truth was simpler. Raymond loved control more than he loved partnership. He valued money more than he valued honesty. So I hired an attorney. I gathered evidence. I filed for divorce. I cooperated with the IRS investigation, and I fought for what I was entitled to after 47 years of marriage. The result: I received $6.5 million in the divorce settlement, nearly 2/3 of our marital assets, because Raymond had committed fraud. Raymond kept $3.5 million, which was reduced to $1.8 million after paying $1.7 million in IRS penalties. I went from having access to $6,000 per month in household budget money to having $6.5 million and complete financial independence. Raymond went from controlling $9 million to living on less than $100,000 per year. Justice wasn't perfect. I lost 47 years of my life to a man who lied to me, but it was sufficient. Raymond faced consequences for his fraud. I gained financial security and independence. And I learned important lessons that I now share with other women. Never let someone else control all your finances. Know where your money is. Know what accounts exist. Review all financial documents. Financial control is financial abuse. If your partner won't share financial information, won't include you in decisions, or gets angry when you ask questions about money, those are red flags. It's never too late to fight back. I was 68 when I discovered Raymond's fraud. I could have stayed quiet, avoided the stress of divorce, accepted the situation. Instead, I fought, and I won. Document everything. The bank statements, business documents, and tax returns I photographed gave me the evidence I needed to win in court. Get professional help. Attorney Foster and forensic accountant Opal Green were essential to uncovering the full extent of Raymond's fraud and securing a favorable settlement. My husband hid millions for years. One evening, I found the account, and the next morning, I started the fight to reclaim my financial independence and dignity. That fight cost me my marriage, but it gave me my freedom. And at 69 years old, I'm finally living life on my own terms, with my own money, making my own decisions. Raymond controlled me for 47 years, but not anymore. Never again. That's my story. That's my victory. And I hope it encourages other women in similar situations to fight for what they deserve. You're never too old to start over. You're never too dependent to become independent. And you're never without recourse if someone has been hiding assets from you. Find the evidence, hire the professionals, fight the fight, and win your freedom. I did, so can you. 1 year later, Geneva thriving with complete freedom. Divorce settlement finalized. Geneva received 65% of offshore accounts, $5.07 M of $8.8 M, plus 50% joint retirement, $200 K, plus $300 K from house sale equals $6.5 M total. Raymond kept 35% offshore, $3.1 M, plus $200 K retirement, plus $150 K from house equals $3.05 M. Geneva got nearly 2/3 of marital assets because Raymond committed fraud. But Raymond's trouble's not over. IRS investigation resulted in settlement. $780 K civil penalties plus $920 K back taxes interest equals $1.07 M total to IRS. Raymond's $3.05 M reduced to only $1.08 M after IRS penalties. Geneva asked, "Did IRS pursue criminal charges?" Raymond, "No, determined violations serious but not criminal. If I'd actively tried to evade taxes, moving money, using fake names, filing false returns, they'd charge me. But since I just failed to report properly, settled for civil penalties. Got lucky, could have gone to prison." Geneva filed innocent spouse relief, IRS accepted. Not liable for any penalties because had no knowledge of accounts. Children supportive, Geneva told them. "When I die, you'll inherit my share equally. But while alive, I'm enjoying financial security I earned through 47 years marriage." Geneva used settlement to buy beautiful condo. No memories of Raymond, entirely hers. Hired female financial advisor who created investment strategy. $260K year investment income plus social security. You're very financially secure. Traveled extensively. Month in Europe, Caribbean cruise, visited grandchildren. Became advocate for women's financial literacy. Never let someone else control all your finances. I did for 47 years. Allowed husband to hide $9 M. Know where money is. Know what accounts exist. Review tax returns before signing. If partner resists sharing financial info, major red flag. Women shared own stories of financial control. Geneva realized how common it is. Attorney Foster, "Your case was high profile, changing how people think about financial transparency in marriage." Raymond's situation. Moved to small apartment, $1.08 M after IRS penalties generates $70K/year plus social security. Went from multimillionaire controlling $9 M to living on less than $100K year. Children, dad seems depressed, doesn't go out, doesn't see friends, basically recluse. Geneva felt small concern. Does he have enough to live on? Curtis, he's fine financially, just not wealthy anymore. 15 months after divorce, Geneva ran into Raymond at restaurant. Raymond approached. "Geneva, good to see you." "You look happy." Geneva, "I am happy, first time in long time, genuinely happy." Raymond, "I'm glad you deserve it. I'm managing, learning to live with less, live alone, accept consequences." Geneva, "I'm sorry for hiding money, lying, controlling you, everything. Destroyed our marriage through selfishness, will regret rest of life." Geneva, "I accept your apology but don't forgive you. Maybe someday but not today." Raymond, "I understand more than I deserve." At 69, Geneva rebuilt life. $6.05 M, complete independence, making own decisions. Raymond controlled me 47 years, but not anymore. Never again. Lessons for other women. 1. Never let someone else control finances. 2. Financial control is financial abuse. 3. Never too late to fight back. Was 68 when discovered fraud. 4. Document everything. Evidence wins cases. 5. Get professional help. My husband hid millions for years. One evening I found the account. Next morning started fight to reclaim independence. Fight cost me marriage but gave me freedom. At 69, finally living on own terms with own money, making own decisions. This story proves that hidden assets can be discovered with determination. Financial control is financial abuse. Recognize the signs. Divorce courts punish fraud with larger asset awards. Offshore accounts must be reported to IRS. Failure is serious. Innocent spouse relief protects uninvolved partners. It's never too late to reclaim financial independence. Documentation is essential. Photograph everything. Professional help, attorney, forensic accountant is crucial. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to this channel for more empowerment stories. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications for new content. Drop a comment. Would you have forgiven Raymond? Is $6.5 million enough justice? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, South Africa, Australia, Trinidad, India, Philippines? Let me know. Remember, if you suspect hidden assets, investigate. Check financial documents, hire forensic accountant, review tax returns, look for offshore account statements. If partner controls all finances and won't share information, red flag, you have right to know about marital assets. Financial transparency is essential in marriage. Document everything, photograph statements, save emails, gather evidence. If you discover fraud, hire attorney immediately. Fight for what you deserve. Age doesn't matter. Geneva was 68 and 1. You're never too old to reclaim independence. Geneva's husband Raymond hid $8.08 in 3 offshore accounts for 20 years. When she discovered them, she fought back. Divorced him, got $6.05 65% of assets. He paid $1.07 to IRS for tax evasion. 1 year later, Geneva thriving with complete financial freedom. Raymond living on fraction of former wealth, alone, facing consequences. Geneva proved you're never too old to fight for independence. Justice SERVED. Thank you for following this powerful journey from discovery to investigation to complete financial freedom. Until the next story, know your finances, document everything, and fight for what you deserve.